是把结巴，耶路亚。
做的这个人假设的，但是呢，他在晒过一把就差，好少当做蒙通些工具，侬那也一侬就真，古要叫那蒙子一度能就真的变红路能，呀 Jerry Daniel，那都地老 Jerry Daniel ตอนนี้จะว่าจริงจังก้าวเลยนะเป็น Jerry Daniel 呀一度CIA นะตัว CIA 头一直就ปวดตัวจ่อแล้วเนาะตัวนั้นในพนว่าปล่อยย่อวัวเขาหรือจิตตาจิเป้ต่อก้าอเมริกาเต๋อรู้ได้เจอเราจวดเลยนะเจเจอรีได้หน่อยยอดตัวสัมภาษณ์ที่นั่งที่จอยใจหายใจลังตือเทลียทหารอเมริกาแล้วถ้ามาว่าปล่อยตัวได้เจอกันเราเนี่ย中组长了，就绝对保证 Jerry Daniel 了。但是呢，过去保证的只能说，侬那国家北母只呢土地佬啊，Jerry Daniel 土地佬，所以要他们去谈 Jerry 侬那Hi Mr. Daniel, how are you?
Good.
Welcome to Fresno.
Pleasure is mine. It's an honor also.
Oh yeah, a lot of people heard about your brother Jerry. And some of them see him picture and see him in videos, but they have no clue where his family or he know nothing about his family. Tell me a little bit about you and your brother.
Well, we moved to Montana. We were both born here in California. Jerry was in Palo Alto and I was born in Los Angeles. And we lived in the Bay until 1951. Then we moved to Helmville, Montana, which is in the western half of this area. He was 2 years behind me in high school, and he became a smoke jumper in 1958, and that's where he was recruited by the CIA.
Mm-hmm. So did he ever tell you after he got recruited by the CIA? Did he ever tell you where he's gonna go?
No, he just said he had to leave the country, and I'm not sure. I don't think that I knew where he was, who he was employed by, and probably for 10 years after he left.
Oh.
It was in the late '60s before I knew that he was CIA.
Mm-hmm. And when he was just gone, did you have any connecting with him during his work?
No.
No?
No, once in a while we'd write letters, but I can't remember writing him one because it was a different address.
Every time.
And he'd come home and he came back and went to college at the University of Montana in Missoula.
Oh.
And he'd come home to go hunting or fishing or something like that. So we just saw each other.
So after he left to Laos, he did come back again.
Yeah.
And then go to college.
Yeah. Well, he off and on.
Oh, off and on.
Because he didn't have the money.
Oh.
So he'd work in Laos, as I found out later, long enough to get money enough to go to finish his college, and he graduated.
You say during his work in Laos, he does not have any money?
Well, he had money there, but he didn't have enough money to go through school until later. I mean, he'd work during the year or some of the year in Laos. So I guess that's where he was. As far as I know, I don't think he ever worked in any of the other countries for the CIA. He could have, and I just didn't know about it.
So during his time in Laos, he did come back and off and on.
Yes.
But you don't know what he's doing.
No.
You don't. He
I
never tell you about his job.
No, I knew he was a kicker.
He's a kicker.
Kicks flies. I believe that was for oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the company.
Air America.
Air America at that time. And he would always say we were kicking. We were dropping rice to the refugees, and that's the way he put it. So later I kind of figured it out, because it said, oh, sometimes we drop rice, sometimes we drop hard rice. And, yeah.
So 1975, did he ever come back home before he went back to Thailand?
Yeah.
He did?
I mean, he was home almost at least once a year.
Oh, so during his stay in Laos, he come home once a year?
About that, I think. I didn't really pay that much attention, but tried to get home to do some hunting and fishing.
Okay. You did not know that he's a very important man, do you? Those time?
Not at that time.
Well, because he have a $billions budget under his budget.
Well, that's what I get. Well,
yeah, and then he made the decision how the wars in Laos is going to be direct, pretty much.
Well, I knew that he was with Bang Pao, and I think that he had his payroll.
Uh-huh.
He had control of VP's payroll.
Yeah, that's a big budget.
Well, see, I don't know that.
Yeah, that's a pretty big budget.
I just didn't realize how big.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, actually, I heard the rumor that they can print their own money.
Huh.
Yes. Yeah, the Jerry and under the CIA, CIA gave Vang Pao and Jerry machines, and because United States government, actually Laos was a colony of the United States during that time. So that means U.S. actually decide who's going to be the king, and decide how the money in Laos is going to be valued. So they print their own money.
I didn't know that. This is the first I've heard of it.
Yes, yeah, okay. Yeah, they print their own money. So even though he come back and forth from Laos and the U.S., you just think that you did not know that he went to a war. Did you? Did you ever know that? Okay, you know.
Not for a long
just
time.
do a work, just a regular
and then
work.
I found out about Bang Pao
Uh-huh.
and what he was doing, and I met Bang Pao when he came up to Montana to buy his ranch down in.
That's years later, after
Yeah.
75, right?
Yeah.
So
probably
before 75, do you know anything about Vang Pao?
Jerry had talked about this because when we went fishing one time,
Uh-huh.
and there's one payphone in this little bitty town that probably doesn't have 20 people in it.
Uh-huh.
After fishing, he said, I got to go call VP.
Ah,
And now I don't know where VP. I thought maybe he was in Washington, D.C. He might have been calling him in Longcheng.
oh, wow.
I mean, I don't
See,
know.
those times, not many people have cell phone.
Yeah, no cell phones. It was just a regular old payphone.
Uh-huh.
Put your quarter in,
Oh.
route it through Washington D.C. or something that, in order to check up on VP and have
Wow.
VP ask whatever they discussed at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now after 75, he did come home, right? 75, 1975?
I couldn't tell you the years that he came home
Uh-huh.
because and I don't remember when he was home the last time before he died.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that was in 82,
That's 82.
in April of 82.
Yeah, he. Well, I guess in '75, the U.S. withdraw out of Southeast Asia, and then a lot of Hmong people freed Laos, and so he is a guy that decide who can come to the United States, especially
Yes.
the people from Laos and Hmong.
Yeah, that's
And- yeah.
because he said he knew most of the Hmong people that had fought, and
Uh-huh.
if they came through and he'd ask them what site or what battle they were in,
Right.
and then they'd say some hill or something like that. He'd say, "Who was the commander?" And if the guy'd give him a name, and he says, "No, I was there, and you weren't there, so you're not coming."
Right.
Where he knew the rest of the majority
Uh-huh.
of and so he pretty much vetted the first Hmong that come to the United States, and I don't know how many that was, but it was several thousand, I'm sure.
Yeah, from 1975 to 1980, Jerry actually decide who can come to the United States. And like you said, during the interview, he will have people ask questions, and they have to answer the right answer, like who is your commander, who's your captain, who's your lieutenant,
Yeah.
and Jerry know all that. And if somebody was just telling a story that does not match, they cannot come to the United States.
Well, I don't know if they couldn't come,
Yeah,
but they didn't, not through Jerry's help. I mean,
right.
he'd helped anybody that he likened the Hmong people to our American Indians. That all they wanted to do was to be free and live free, and they fought for the United States. And he was really irritated, to use nice language, that the government did not fulfill their business with the Hmong that had given so much for our country.
The Vang Pao came to Missoula, where your family lived, right?
Yeah.
That's the what do you, when you first see Vang Pao, what do you see in him? What do you think of Vang Pao?
Well,
did you ever see Vang Pao when he very first Hmong refugee come to the U.S.?
Well, I don't know that. I know that Vang Pao and I think one of his brothers got off the airplane one time in Missoula, and they just looked like nattily dressed gentlemen. I would have never have thought that they'd been warriors of any kind. I mean, he just looks like you, just smooth looking and smiley and cordial, and well, he's just another guy to me, other than that he was General Vang Pao.
For so long, we, the Hmong community, did not know about Jerry's family like you guys. We have no idea where you guys are at. Maybe the secret been kept. And do you, during those time, 1980s and 1976, when Vang Pao was come to Missoula, and all that, do you ever have contact with the Hmong community?
Just a few of the younger ones that first came there, and I couldn't tell you the years that was in there, but my boys were friends of Mu Cha. There's about 3 or 4, and it seems to me that they were teenagers. Chai was another one, and I just can't recall.
Do you, besides Jerry, is there any of your family in the military?
No, brother Jack was in the 55, but he was in Korea in occupation, not during the war.
So
Korea.
Jerry's the only one with the government.
Right.
Government
Well,
operation.
my dad was involved with the government. He was Signal Corps at the Presidio San Francisco when we were growing up in the 40s. But he was not military. No military background at all.
Did Vang Pao, before he died, from 1970, after he left Missoula, did he ever connecting with your family?
Probably with my mother.
With your mother.
But not directly with me.
Okay.
But I think I was trying to remember if he was Jerry's funeral. He could have been, but there was a lot of CIA guys.
Because many times when they decide to helping the Hmong, even to come to the United States, the U.S. government still have to relocate Hmong community to make sure they are self-sufficient, or because they can adjust to the society. So they have a relocation plan, like from Fresno to another city, and sometimes they will get reject, or they will have a problem, and they have to prove that, okay, do Vang Pao really serve the United States? Maybe, and if your brother was still alive, he is the only key to prove that, well, did Vang Pao really serve the United States? I assume that he will contact your family.
Well, not Vang Pao, but I know that when Jerry had come here, when the first settlements were coming in, and he came home for, I guess, a kind of a working vacation, he'd go to Colorado where there was a Hmong community there, and go to Minnesota where they were there, and sort of look in and see how they were doing.
Oh.
I just don't know what his capacity was at that time.
Okay, you talk about 1976 to 1980.
Well, it would have been before 80, and I couldn't tell you the years.
How did your brother die? Do you know?
Not how. Well, we know how. They said he died of of carbon monoxide poisoning that had over 90% carbon monoxide in his veins.
Oh.
And that was a Thai doctor that did the autopsy. And Brother Jack is a doctor of physiology, and he says that can't happen because you'll black out at 50, little over 55%. Now, 55 to 90, that's a lot of percentage. You should have been dead. I mean, you should never have been alive long enough to ingest that much more carbon monoxide. But when they dug him up, we had the head doctor, I can't think what they are, but he came there and he found out that there was no bullet holes in him like we thought. It was kind of mysterious. There was no bullet holes. He didn't have broken bones. He didn't look like he'd been abused. His hyoid was still intact, which is a bone in the throat that showed that he wasn't garroted. But we'll never know how. I mean, because you can't test blood because that was 36 years later after he died. Before.
Oh, so when they first bought his body from Thailand, do you guys see it?
No.
No?
No, we weren't allowed to.
You were allowed. I heard that the casket was sealed.
Right.
And nobody can see it. The Hmong community don't even know who's in there.
That's right. And it came because the government wanted to burn them up. What do you call it? What do you call it when you cremated?
Oh, the government like to cremate him.
Yeah, and he said no, or my mom said no.
Okay.
Because she was involved with the Hmong and knew some of their background, and they don't believe in cremation.
Right.
And they said, okay, we'll send him home, but that casket is never to be opened. And there was quite a to-do when the funeral was there. It was a regular 3-day Hmong funeral, which I understand has never been done for an American. But I could be wrong on that. But that is the story of that.
And so actually, you guys never see the body. Hmong community never see the body. And 36 years later, how do you know that that's actually his body?
Well, when they dug him up, the sheriff's department decided that since he'd been a smoke jumper, a local guy, and a hero to the Hmong, they took it over as a crime scene. And so they took it over and they were digging him up, and they didn't tell anybody other than, I mean, just the local people. There was 2 Hmong.
And 2 Hmong
came to watch it, and I was there with another lawyer and Dr. Kurtzman, who was the state pathologist. There's the word I was trying to. He was there, and that was all that saw him. We saw the dig it up. We went down to the mortuary. They opened the casket. They had firemen there with their hoses so they could tell whether there was any bad gas that's going to cause a problem. And then they took him down and put a CT scan or a CAT scan or whatever it was. They ran him through the deal, and I think that I think it was Jamua. I'd have to get home to remember which one it was. I think it's this guy that has the Montana barbecue down there.
So the Montana barbecue came all the way from Montana. He not just make that up, right?
What?
The barbecue here in the New Year, he's not make it up. He actually came from Montana.
Yeah, he lives in Montana.
Oh, okay. I thought he just made it up.
No, he lives pretty close to me, 50 miles away from me.
Oh, okay.
And so those are the witnesses. And then they took that, they showed the 2 Hmong guys that were there, the pictures. It was really a round skull. They didn't show any of the rest of his body, and that was just a picture.
It's a picture.
And they said, I don't think that's Jerry. Well, how can you tell Jerry? Because he looked like a guy that came out of the monster of the Black Lagoon. It was meat. And then there was still some meat on his thigh bone. And they took a sample of that and they swabbed my mouth
Oh.
to match the DNA, and the DNA took them almost 2 years.
Wow, to prove it.
Well, they didn't tell us that they sent it to Texas to get it worked on, and then they said they didn't want to do it, so they sent it someplace else, and then they tell me that they needed money.
How much did it cost for that?
It was a little over, it was right at $2,000. And at first we were told that it was going to be $30,000 to dig him up, but we got that covered, no problem. And then we had the came back about 2 days after Thanksgiving, I think, maybe a week after Thanksgiving. The match was 99.997. Now that's a pretty close match.
Right.
So that was, we're we're sure that that's who it is in the hole.
Well, it sounds like pretty long time that the Daniel family actually come to see the Hmong community. Is there any reason why keep you guys for so secret that we did not know that you guys exist, or we have never contact with your family for the last 30 years?
I don't think so. Have you ever seen that book of Jerry Daniels, the book about him?
Oh no, I haven't seen the book.
It's called Hog's Exit, and written by Gail Morrison. And she
Gail Morrison. Yeah.
She worked with the Hmong down in Southern California, and she found out about Jerry. So she wanted to put it in the Sky is Falling, her first book. And the guy said, well, I want to publish it now. And then it took her 10 years. And she talked to a lot of people all over the country. And the book's over 400 pages long. And it's a great book. So that, I mean, we were aware through Gail and through the few Hmong that are in Missoula.
But you just didn't decide to come visit?
No. Mikey was the one that come up and stirred us up. He came up 3 years ago and wanted to take pictures of Vang Pao's place down in Bitterroot. And then he started feeding me when I got back here.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Nên sáng là Jerry Daniel từ tí lâu nè. Jerry Daniel hiện nay phun vào bỏ ít tu phun nhiều trong sắp rồi. Bây giờ CIA tu tu choตัวโดยได้เจนปล่อยเนี่ยน้องทางในพงว่าที่ทัดที่เพย์ที่จะเป็นมงตัวตัวรู้ได้เชื่อมันกาเราท้องเปลือกมงตัวตัวรู้ท้องเตะเตะแต่นะยังดีแล้วเจนได้เนี่ยนะว่าชนต่อกูเห็นว่าชุดจ้า